Community Motors West Side, the GM Superstore next to Cinema West. Community Motors of Mason City, we give you more.
Drop up here, John? Up here?
What's that? Oh, Mitt.
No, the new.
Yeah, Newt was over here. Okay. Yeah, and then Santora was just taco over. You know what?
You can see me without me standing on that step up there. Is that true?
Yeah.
No, okay, I'll get back up again. You guys just want to see me fall. And the guys with the cameras, they're really hoping. It would make a great shot, wouldn't it? Look, I want to say thanks to you for being here. And, you know, I'm surprised that my mom and dad didn't put this particular spot on their itinerary when I was taken around the country. You see, when I was a boy, my mom and dad put us in our car and drove us from national park to national park. We were raised in Michigan, a beautiful state, but they wanted us to see the mountains and the rivers and the canyons and the sequoias and the oceans, and so we went around the country. And the car we drove in, of course, was a Rambler. A few of you remember those. My dad made Ramblers, so we had one. And my friends at school, I lived in Detroit, so a lot of my friends there, their parents worked for auto companies, and their auto companies meant that they got to drive Mustangs and Camaros, and I drove my mom's Rambler station wagon. They called it Mrs. Romney's Grocery Getter, and indeed that's what it was. So we went around to the parks, and I knew what my parents were doing. They wanted me to fall in love with America, and I did. What extraordinary land we live in. I love that song, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain." If you count corn as an amber wave of grain, why, you have them right here. What a wonderful place this is. I also love another verse or two of that song. "Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife." Our soldiers. Any veterans in the room here today? Raise your hand, please. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. The greatest generation then and those who serve today, the greatest of our generation. I appreciate your service. There's another stanza. Oh, don't worry about that. Garrett's down here holding my chair. Don't worry. I'm more balanced than you think. Just catch me if I come down, all right? There's another verse that I like, which says, "Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years." I kind of wondered what that meant. And as I've gotten a little older, I have a better sense that when the founders of the country, the patriots, when they had a dream about what America would be, it was not just for the years they were alive, but for even our times. The patriot dream sees beyond the years. This nation was crafted with principles that are not temporary in nature, but are enduring in nature. They gave us political freedom. From the very beginning, we would have the right to choose who would represent us. And they also gave us economic freedom. We would have the right to choose our course in life. And those two freedoms attracted people from all over the world, from all different nations to come here, because this was the land of liberty. When they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they were careful in their choice of words. They said the Creator had endowed us with certain unalienable rights. It was not government that gave us those rights, it was our Creator. They came as individuals, as sons and daughters of a loving Father. And those rights included life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We would be free to pursue happiness as we chose. This would be the land of opportunity. We are an opportunity nation. In America, we would have the freedom to rise above the circumstance of our birth and achieve whatever we might dream. And this merit society, this opportunity society meant that those that got education or worked hard or were willing to take risks and make sacrifices, that they could achieve great rewards. And by the way, as they did that, they did not make the rest of us poorer. They made us better off. They employed us with their innovations and ideas. America has changed the world time and time again by virtue of men and women who have had this kind of passion for opportunity. Now, what concerns me today as I watch our president is that I don't think he understands America. I don't think he understands what makes us this powerful engine of economic vitality and moral strength. It is in part the principles of freedom and opportunity upon which this nation was based. I think he's trying to change us into something more like Europe, an entitlement society, where people are entitled to take from others, where government does the job of taking from some and giving to others. I don't think Europe is working in Europe. I think America is a better model for America than Europe is. I believe in the principles that made this country great. I don't want to follow President Obama's words. He says he wants to fundamentally transform America. I don't want to transform America into something it's not. I want to restore the principles that made America what it is. I believe in hard work and education. I believe in hard work and education and risk-taking and people with dreams. There was I told you about that drive I had with my parents as we, someone else is silly enough to stand on a stool here. As we went from national park to national park, they would not only teach me to see the beauty of the country, Mom and Dad would talk to us about the qualities of America. And they read to me from a book. The book they read from was one called Men to Match My Mountains. And I was with a fellow who said, Mitt, did you know that the name of that book was taken from a poem? And the author of the poem wanted to describe the quality of the people who would come and build America. I didn't know that. He then recited the poem. And I've now learned the first 4 lines. They're kind of impressive. It said this. It said, bring me men to match my mountains. Bring me men to match my plains. Men with empires in their purpose and new eras in their brains. The idea is we would be a land of people with empires, not of conquest, but empires of innovation and pioneering and construction and building. And in fact, those people who have those ideas would bring in new eras in the world. The founders of this country, with their vision of freedom, has changed the world, brought a new era. I saw a story about the World's Fair in 1850 in London. Every country was asked to send products from their country. We sent these huge crates. They opened the crates up and assembled them, and it was a McCormick Reaper. That's what we sent. And the McCormick Reaper did the work of 40 people. And by virtue of that, we changed the world, brought a new era. We can now feed the world. And people could come into the cities and start the industrial age, which we also promoted. And then, of course, the assembly line at Henry Ford, the new economy. America changes the world by virtue of men and women with passion and vision and empires in their purpose. I love this country. Now, I look at the country today, and I recognize that we can't keep going down the course we're on towards becoming more like Europe. Europe is the wrong model for America. If we become like Europe, we're going to see debts rise and rise and rise until we have a Greek-type situation or an Italy-type situation in this country. If we become like Europe, we're going to have chronic high unemployment. If we become like Europe, we're going to cease being the opportunity nation we've always been. I want to restore to America the principles of opportunity and freedom that we've had in the past. I want government to be smaller. I want to balance our budget. I want to make this the best place in the world for entrepreneurs, for small business, for innovation. for technology, so we can continue to lead the world and have the highest standard of living in the world. I want to keep America safe with a military that's unquestionably superior to any other in the world. I love this country. I love the principles upon which it was founded. If I'm President of the United States, I will do everything in my power to keep America strong and hold fast to the principles that made us the hope of the earth. I love America, and I appreciate your help. Thanks, you guys. Now, let me turn to you. You get the chance to ask some questions here. I've spoken in broad terms about my vision for the country, but we can narrow it down here. Yes, sir. Hi there. Do you need a mic? Sure, I'll come on down and bring you a mic. Hold on here.
I've voted I've been voting for 40 years, and I voted for Republicans every time. And I'm getting to the point where I'm a little disillusioned by what goes on. It seems like everybody wants to out-conservative somebody else, and then they get in office and we don't see anything happen. George Bush had 2 years when he could have did a lot of things, and he didn't. And now I've heard all these promises, you know. I mean, I think we ought to balance the budget. I think we ought to open the oil fields. I think we ought to do something for defense of marriage. I think we ought to do something to save lives of infants. I could go on. There's about half a dozen more. But what I want to know is, if you get a Republican House and a Republican Senate in 2 years, will you fulfill all those promises?
The answer is yes. Next question? No. The answer is yes. And let me tell you how you can know. Two things. I'm not a lifelong politician. I spent my life as a family guy and as a business person. I spent 25 years in business. I didn't expect to get involved in politics. I have the proof of that. My dad was a Republican governor in Michigan. His name was golden in that state. Had I thought for a moment I was going to be in politics, I would have, number one, stayed in Michigan, and number two, I would have never moved to Massachusetts. Now, I spent my life in the private sector, and then I got the chance to be governor of a state after having worked at the Olympics. And you can look at my record in Massachusetts and see what I was able to accomplish and learn what I believe and what I'll do if I'm a leader. And there are two things I think you can learn from that experience, at least, in Massachusetts. One is that I was able to do a number of things that you want to see happen at the federal level. Balance the budget every year. In the 4 years I was there. Came into office, there was a $3 billion budget shortfall. I was able to cut programs, to cut back on the number of agencies, consolidate agencies, streamline government. And by the time I left government, we had a $2 billion rainy day fund. So I've proven what I can do. I empowered the state police, for instance, to enforce our immigration laws in our state. I went to work to ensure that we had something known as English immersion in our schools. Our kids no longer would be taught in the language of their birth when they came to America. They'd be taught in English. So we could get our kids to learn English. And so you may not like all the things that I did as the governor of Massachusetts. I like them. But you can learn what I believe and what things I'm able to accomplish by the record I had there in 4 short years. And then there's another aspect that you can learn from my experience there. I was governor of a state that had a few Democrats. My legislature was 85% Democrat. And I got those things done even with a Democrat legislature. We never raised taxes. We cut taxes 19 times. That was with a Democrat legislature. We drove our schools to be the highest ranked in the nation. And by the way, you can't graduate from high school in Massachusetts without passing an exam, a graduation exam in English and math, and now in science as well. And these provisions, there was an effort on the part of some to say no more charter schools. They passed a moratorium on charter schools. I vetoed that. And that veto was upheld despite that Democrat majority. There was also a measure saying that illegal aliens should get a tuition break, a in-state tuition break in my state. They passed that. I vetoed that. We upheld that as well. I said no to driver's licenses for illegals. So you can learn by looking at that record. You can see what my beliefs are. And you can also see that even though I had a Democrat legislature, I was able to work well enough across the aisle to find some people who shared enough common ground to do things that were right for our state. And I will do the same thing in Washington. This is not for me the next step in my political career. I don't have a political career. I've served in government 4 years. I like to say that I didn't inhale. I'm still a business guy. I'm still a dad. I'm in this race because I'm very concerned about my kids and my grandkids. I'm in this race because I love America. And I'm concerned the track we're on is going to change America. And a strong America with strong values, with a strong economy, and with a superior military is essential for our future, our kids' future, their kids' future, and for the world. That's why I'm in this. And so I can promise you, I can't promise that single-handedly I can make the Congress and the Supreme Court do all the things I do, but I can tell you I'll fight for those things. And that the reason I'm in this race is because I believe that by virtue of the lessons of leadership I've learned as a governor, as the guy who helped run the Olympics, as the guy who ran a couple of businesses, and a guy who got to watch his dad, who was the most remarkable leader I've known, that I'll use all of my energy and passion to get America right again. Thank you. Let me just note this. It is my intent to make sure that our military is so superior that no one wants to test it, because I fundamentally believe something that I heard in England. Now, I was in the UK several months ago. I got the chance to meet with former Prime Minister Tony Blair and current Prime Minister David Cameron and other leaders of the government there. Very impressive people, by the way. I was encouraged by the thoughtfulness and the wisdom of the people I met with. And one of them said this to me, and he didn't give me permission to quote him, so I won't tell you which one it was. But he said this. He said, "You know, Mitt, if you're lucky enough to be elected President of the United States, you will undoubtedly travel to foreign capitals. And people there will criticize things America may have done. But," he said, "please don't ever forget this. What we all fear the most is a weak America. A strong America is the best ally peace has ever known. I will keep America strong." Thank you. Way back there, gentlemen in glasses. Oh, hey, look, they're bringing a microphone to you. The miracles of...
Yes, thanks for coming to Mason City. Question for you on China.
Yeah.
Given the trade imbalances and the problem with the exchange of currency rate, how do you deal with China when they're our largest single creditor of our national budget and debt? Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, there's an old saying in the banking world, which is if you owe the bank $1,000, the bank owns you. But if you owe the bank $1 million, you own the bank. And so we're in a situation with China where we're going to have to be serious and stand for our rights and our interests. The Chinese stand for their rights and interests, as we would expect them to. And over the years, they have artificially held down the value of their currency so that their products are cheaper than they would be on a fair basis around the world. And that has killed American businesses and American jobs. And we've sat there and watched that happening and complained, but not taken any action. They've also pirated our technology, stolen patents, designs, brand names. They've even got a store in China, an Apple store that supposedly sells Apple products. It isn't an Apple store, it's all counterfeit. And then they, of course, they hack into our computers, our government computers, our military computers, our corporate computers, and steal technology and information. We can't allow that to go on forever. At some point, you got to stand up and say enough. And so on day one of my administration, I will designate under our law China as a currency manipulator, which it quite obviously is, which gives the president the capacity, the power to apply tariffs as necessary to get China to take a different action. Now you might say, well, wait a second. They've got all this power over us, but don't forget, they sell us every year this much stuff. And we sell them every year this much stuff. They don't want to end the relationship of trade that we have, and we don't want to end that either. But it's finally time for China to recognize that they, like everyone else, are going to have to play by the rules. And if I'm president, I will make sure that I do everything in my power to get them to play by the rules. Thank you. Poor where Jake? Jake's carrying the microphone. Next time, Jake is going to be wherever there.
I had a question about the statement that you made about cutting the waste and everything in the government. What programs would you keep and what programs would you get rid of when it comes to saving some of that money and saving it and using it to other things or whatever?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. Because, by the way, the federal government today is spending 25% of the economy. So when you hear that we have an economy of $15 trillion, that's everything bought and sold in America. Services, products, $15 trillion. The government accounts, federal government, 25% of that is their spending. And if you add state and local, it gets it up to 37% of our economy is government. We're only inches away from no longer being a free economy. And so I have to get federal spending down. I'll get it down to 20% of the economy, from 25 to 20, by the end of my first term, if I'm lucky enough to have a first term and second term. So how do I get it down? I need to cut $500 billion out of annual spending. And how do I do that? Well, one, I get rid of some programs. Some I like to get rid of. The easiest one is Obamacare. That's gone. $95 billion a year. That's gone. But there are other things I like. I like the National Endowment to the Arts. I like the National Endowment to the Humanities. I like PBS, public broadcasting. All right, those are wonderful things. But I'm not going to kill Big Bird, I promise. But they're going to be advertisements on PBS to help pay for Big Bird. And I'm not going to keep on borrowing money from China to pay for things that are not absolutely essential. My list of things I will eliminate is pretty long. Because my test is this program so critical it's worth borrowing money that our kids have to pay back to pay for? So that's number one. Then number two, I take programs I like or that we need, like for instance providing health care to the poor, that's Medicaid. And instead of having the federal government run and mandate that program, I'll send the dollars back to the states and say, states, you should be free to craft your own program for your own poor and uninsured. And that, by the way, saves $100 billion a year. And then with what's left in government, I'm going to reduce the federal employment by about 10% through attrition. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that government income, government wages and benefits for government workers are linked with those that exist in the private sector. I don't think government servants should make more than the people who are paying for it. That gets us to $5 billion. Thank you. There's a young man here. There's a young man here with a question. How old are you, sir?
I am 8 years old.
Hi. I see you got a sticker on your forehead. You know that's got my name on it?
Yeah.
Good, good.
Is it hard running for the president?
Thank you. And that's a darn good question. And the answer is yes and no. Sounds like a politician. I apologize. The answer is it's hard in terms of getting up early in the morning, sleeping in a strange bed almost every night, one hotel after the other. We were in the Hampton Inn last night. I don't know where we are tonight. Who knows where? I better not tell you. We'll all be there getting signatures. And so it's a different hotel in different nights, and sometimes we don't sleep so well. The night before last, we had our bus parked out in front of the hotel in the parking lot there, and the trucks, we were off, I think it was Interstate 80 or one of the other interstates, and the trucks going by saw the bus, and every now and then one of the drivers liked me and would pull his horn, you know, and so we had a hard time getting to sleep. So there are times that it's hard. The best part of the campaigning is doing what I'm doing now. It's meeting people across the country and shaking hands and making friends. This last campaign I had, we spent a lot of time in Iowa and got to meet a lot of friends and made friends that will keep with us for the rest of our life. The measure of a person's life is not how much stuff they have, it's how many people they love, how many friends they have. It's the personal connections between people, family and friends, that really measure what kind of a life you'll enjoy. And so getting to run for president has been the greatest opportunity I've ever had to expand the world of my friendships and people I love and care for. So if you get the chance to do it, make sure and do it. Win or lose, it's a good thing to do. Thank you.
Governor, first of all, thanks for being here. Yesterday I was at a political event and I heard something that disappointed me. I was sitting next to two older gentlemen, and they were talking about who they were going to support this time around. And one said to the other, well, you were for Governor Romney last time, are you supporting him this time? And he said, no, I don't feel like he's committed to winning the state of Iowa. And as a supporter of yours, when I hear that, it disappoints me. What do you say to those people?
Come on by and say hi. Best thing I can do is show them that I'm going to be here. We're on our bus going across the state. Ann and I have been in the state. I think this is our 8th political trip to Iowa. And sure, I want to win Iowa. Everybody wants to win Iowa. I'm not going to predict who's going to win. I think it's too difficult to know who's going to show up at the caucuses, but I want to get the support of the people of Iowa. And I also want to make sure that I get the people in New Hampshire and South Carolina and Florida. I want to make sure that your vote backing me is a vote that leads me to become the nominee. This is a process not just of putting your name or your hand next to someone who you kind of like. It's also selecting who our nominee ought to be. Who you think can beat Barack Obama? Who you think can get the 1,150 delegates it takes to become our nominee? So look at the candidates, decide who you like, and decide who also can become president and can lead the country at a time of challenge. The term leadership is what I hope people focus on that, which is, does the person have the capacity to lead? How do you determine that? You can't, I don't know how people look at someone and say that's a leader and that's not a leader, except by looking at their experience, seeing what they've done. And I've had the chance to lead 4 different times, twice in business, once at the Olympics, and once in a state. And you can talk to the people who worked with me. Most of them respect me. Not all of them, I don't imagine, but most do. And that's an indication. You can look at the success of the enterprises and say, does he know how to lead or not? And I hope as you look at the people running, you can measure their capacity to lead effectively. And you can also determine whether they can become our nominee and defeat President Obama. I think I can. I also believe I have the background, having spent my life in the real world, to get America on track again in the real world. And I say that we got a lot of good folks running on the Republican side, but almost all of them have spent their entire life in government, in politics. I really think it's going to be helpful to have, if you will, politic term limits. Have some people go to Washington who spent a life in the real economy, and I have. Thank you. I have one more question. I'll let you go back to work. This poor gentleman. Oh, here's a microphone right behind you. They got a microphone, so you and I don't have to get up and down again. There, hi.
Governor, thank you so much for coming to North Iowa. We really appreciate it. I personally am really just scared down to my toes. I think this is our last chance to turn this country around. Frankly, I'd probably be on the other side, but I'm a Christian and I believe in the 10th commandment, do not covet. And if you take away covetousness on the other side, they don't have much left. I'm really concerned this country is made up of more takers than makers, and this is our last chance, I think. How are you going to deal with all that?
Yeah, that gentleman had some wisdom in those comments. I also think this could well be our last chance. And I say that because if people keep turning upside down that old refrain from John F. Kennedy, ask not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. If people turn that around and keep saying, how much free stuff will you give me? How big a check will you give me? How many more benefits will you give me? When we have 47% of our people who pay no income tax, and there are some who would raise that number to an even higher level, I think at some point you question, can we survive that? Or do we find ourselves becoming a Greece or an Italy, and no one's big enough to bail us out? If we hit that catastrophic financial wall, why, the consequence for America would be unthinkable. And so I look at this and say, this is the time when we have to return America to being a nation of merit and opportunity, where we say to people, your life choices have consequences. And if you work hard and you get an education, as much as you can get, and you're willing to take risks, that you can achieve your dreams. And if you don't, then people around you will, and they'll employ you, and we'll all be better off. And that's one course. But if you take the other course, which is an entitlement nation, where you look to government and expect government to provide for you, regardless of what you do, then America becomes a place where class warfare poisons the American spirit, where envy replaces ambition. And entitlement nations have never worked anywhere. No nation is compared with ours in terms of the income, the prosperity that we enjoy in this nation. We somehow think it must be better somewhere else. You realize the average European, our income per person in America, on average, is 50% higher than the average European. This is changing America to become an entitlement-type society, where government plays a heavier and heavier hand and controls more and more of our economy, makes us something we would not recognize. That's the choice. I'm convinced that's the choice. I don't think the president understands, and his people understand what makes America such a powerful and dynamic nation. I do, because I've lived that dynamism. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I want to keep it alive. I'm going to fight for liberty. I'm going to fight for opportunity. I'm going to fight for the American people. I'm fighting for the middle class, by the way. The poor, we have a safety net to care for. And if it has holes in it, we need to repair them. We need to care for those that can't care for themselves. We're a generous nation. The rich are doing just fine. The middle class in America is really struggling right now. I want to help the middle class and preserve the values that keep us strong. You guys, I want to thank you. You're kind to be here. What a great day. What a historic spot this is. Get out and caucus on January 3rd and get a friend to do it as well. Thanks so much. Great to be with you.